Hello, everyone. Welcome to Recotopia episode 183. My name is Chris Atkinson, joined by Aaron Dicer.
Heidely ho, Red Wing Arenos.
That's correct. And we'd also like to welcome Jeremy Scott.
Hello, everybody.
That's right. And we'd also like to welcome Chat, who have come out here to watch us talk about movies on a Tuesday. We appreciate you guys. Today's big recommend is Grosse Pointe Blank from 1997. Let's get on to our small recommends. And I will start us off with a movie from 1985 called Fright Night. It is a movie where a kid is convinced that there is a vampire living next door, mainly because he sees a lot of vampire type stuff going on next door. But unfortunately, no one believes him, of course. No one sees the things that he sees. He's very, very obsessed with this. This is kind of a horror comedy. The guy playing Charlie Brewster, the main character, is William Ragsdale, who some people may remember from Herman's Head way back in the day, played the main guy in that. And then his girlfriend is played by Amanda Bierce, who was on Married with Children, played Darcy or Marcy or whatever, the neighbor of the Bundys that was in there. But the main reason to watch this movie is for Chris Sarandon's performance as the vampire, or the head vampire. I don't even know if he's Dracula in this. I don't think they even bothered to say if he's that or not. He plays it in a very modern kind of way, and kind of he's mostly amused and annoyed at the character trying to prove that he's a vampire all the way through this. I feel like this movie was kind of an inspiration for The Burbs, which came out a few years later. But also another reason to watch this is Roddy McDowall, who plays Peter Vincent, who is an old actor who used to do vampire movies, and he hosts a TV show that shows vampire movies. Obviously, his name is like a combination of Peter Cushing and Vincent Price. He's also in this. There's a point where Charlie goes to ask him for help, figuring he knows a lot about vampire hunting. He was in so many movies where that happened, so why not? And so he gets Roddy McDowall in on the action and everything. But yeah, watch it for Chris Sarandon plays a vampire differently than you have ever really seen it before. If you've seen a lot of different vampire movies, usually they're brooding and they're just weird and dark and all that type of stuff. He plays it like a 38-year-old man who's just kind of like, this is just amusing and fun and whatever, and I get annoyed sometimes. So this movie was remade a couple of 20 years ago or so. It was
2011.
Yeah. Colin Farrell was in it, and Anton Yelchin was in it.
2011 is supposed to only have been a few years ago.
I know. And now it feels like 20, even though it was 14. But that movie came out 14 years ago, and it was actually pretty good too. This one is a little bit better than that one, but highly recommend Fright Night, especially if you're getting into October and wanting to see some horror flicks.
I agree. They're both worth a watch. I actually would reverse you on which one's, but I think the remake's a little bit better than the original, in my opinion. But that may be
I haven't seen it since 2011, so that
may be some David Tennant bias sneaking in.
Yeah, David Tennant.
Yeah, because he's in there as well. Toni Collette is in there too. But
Tennant play the Roddy McDowall character in that?
I don't. That's possible. Yes, I think you're right.
Okay. I have, like I said, I haven't seen it in forever. So I
haven't seen it in a few years too. But I do remember liking it more than the original. But they're both fun, and that's it's a nice fun October watch for sure.
Yeah. All right, what do you got, Jeremy?
Listen, gentlemen, ladies and gents, I am in the middle of TV heaven. I am exactly 5 episodes through 2 of the very best shows I think I've ever seen. One is Alien Earth, which was briefly talked about in a previous episode. So I will let that episode stand for now. I still have 3 episodes to finish. The other one, the one I'm small recommending, is HBO's Task. I am 5 episodes through a 7-episode run. Now, I've never seen Mayor of Easttown. But this is the same creator. It's set in the same county, and the creator says it's even in the same universe as Mayor of Easttown. So if you like Mayor of Easttown, I'm pretty confident you're going to like this, but I have no concept of what they may be similar in or different in. This show hooked me right off the first episode with a kind of a jaw-dropping ending. But the basic setup is Mark Ruffalo is a former priest who's turned atheist. He's an FBI agent, and he basically recruits new FBI agents. But his boss pulls him off of that to head up a task force because there's a bunch of drug stash house robberies happening, and she wants him and 3 junior FBI recruits basically to try and find the gang that's doing the robberies and stop them. The other half of the time we're spending with the gang that's doing the drug stash house robberies. And we slowly learn motivations. It's what's his name? Tom Pelfrey is playing Robbie. He's been in a bunch of stuff. I don't think I've ever seen him, but he was in Ozark. And he is stealing this show from Mark Ruffalo right now, which is fine with Ruffalo as far as I can tell. Ruffalo's playing the most un-Ruffalo-like person I've ever seen. There's no charisma. He's beaten down by life. He is meek. And it's really fun to see him play against type. It's dark, man. The content, the subject matter, the stuff that happens, it's dark. And the episode 5 just ended where I would have thought was the beginning of the finale cliffhanger. They cliffhangered me at the end of that 5th episode in a way that really struck me. I don't know what they're going to do for 2 more episodes. But everybody's great. Amelia Jones from Coda is in this. Martha Plimpton is in this, playing Ruffalo's boss. And I can't get enough. I'm going to be shattered when it's over. There's only 2 more episodes, but I can't recommend it enough. It's one of the most riveting shows I've seen in at least 5 years. So there you go.
I would highly recommend you fire up Mayor of Easttown as soon as you're done with the task.
I intend to.
It is very, very good. I think the difference would be, as far as I can tell, Mayor of Easttown, to me, has a little more narrative energy, whereas Task has character energy. And not that there isn't some of that in both, and a lot of that in both, but like as far as the emphasis goes, I'm finding myself in Task more drawn to the deep exploration of these characters.
Yeah.
Whereas in Mare, I was engaged in the narrative and the mystery and the there's more of a not puzzle box, but more of a mystery kind of what's going on in Mare than there is here in Task. And they're both, what I love about them both and what I love about this creator is they're so clearly, authentically Philadelphian. Yeah. Like the references they're dropping, the accents are so specifically, like hearing Kate Winslet and Mare do that, like that Philadelphia accent is really, really interesting. So yeah, I really, really like how it just feels authentic, both of these shows. So yeah, I like Mare a little bit more, but I'm definitely into Task for sure. Yeah.
That was that great Saturday Night Live that came out after Mayor of Easttown.
Murder Dirter.
Yeah. So they all had that. They really affected the accent. And my dirter, and
you
all
got one of those murder dirters.
Yeah.
I think what's fascinating about that kind of work, though, is it's not. I don't think it's flashy. I don't think the accents and the references are taking the spotlight. I think what it does is it subconsciously fills in the gaps to make these feel like people feel more real. I am much more interested in what's coming out of Mark Ruffalo's mouth and what's happening on his face than I am in what his accent sounds like. But his accent just helps what's coming out of his mouth feel more real. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now.
I saw I saw the first episode of this 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I have not started binging it yet. I did like what I saw. It did feel like, even though you were talking about the ending, I'm sure you were like, I want to see the next episode immediately, and I was still kind of like, I'm not sure if I like this yet, even after that. But I'll give a show a lot of rope, especially HBO shows, even though this is not the same era as The Wire. Tell somebody to watch The Wire, the first episode, and see if they're still interested after that.
I've
really
recommended
hard.
The Wire to so many people so many times over the years. I have nearly perfected you really need to give that first season time. You're going to be on episode 6 going, wait, who's this person? Because there are 100 characters to follow, but once you get there, it's one of the most rewarding shows.
That's how I feel about recommending The Leftovers. whenever I recommend The Leftovers to people, I'm like, get through that first season and you will not believe the ecstasy you're going to have through that show.
Yeah, see, I didn't make it through the first season.
I'm so glad that I didn't watch that show when it was on, and I binged the whole thing later, because I really enjoyed Leftovers too.
It's so good.
Yeah, such a good show. What do you got, Aaron?
I've been deep in documentaries, and this is vying for the best one I've seen this year, and probably will be vying for an Oscar as well. It's called The Perfect Neighbor. This is Netflix is putting this on. I actually think it drops on Netflix next week, maybe the 17th, somewhere in that range. And what makes this documentary interesting is twofold. Number one, the story itself it's one of these docs where you're going to be devastated, you're going to hurt. This is not going to feel good to know this story is true. And so know that going into it. But the other part of that is it is in many ways a found footage documentary. Now, what I mean by that is in the area of body cams, this entire documentary is stitched together through police body cams, CCTV. There are no talking heads. There's no narration. There's text at the beginning and I think text at the end. Other than that, it is archival footage, video of this incident, of what happened in this neighborhood with this one neighbor who, let's just say for a matter of foundational context, did not like the children in the neighborhood playing near her yard. Not in her yard, near her yard. And then what happens over the course of time. So I, again, give all the caveats and all the warnings of, this is one of those docs that's going to tell you a story that we probably all need to hear, but it is not going to be fun to hear it, if that makes sense. And I'm probably overselling that a little bit, but it is a captivating, powerful, important watch, in my opinion. So The Perfect Neighbor, when it pops on Netflix, if you find yourself in that place, give it a watch.
How is this movie not about me?
Right,
Jeremy, you don't want this movie to be about you. You don't.
I get the sense that the title of this movie is ironic, Jeremy. It's not about an actual.
Okay. Well, let it be known.
If it was about an actual perfect neighbor, they would have gone to you immediately.
Okay, that's what I meant.
There's no conflict there.
I don't know what happens in there. I wasn't saying I'm the bad guy.
Right. So there you go.
I don't do. Honestly, let's just take 12 seconds. I am the perfect neighbor. I don't do anything. I don't bother any of my neighbors. I'm not outside.
That's right.
I don't shoot fireworks. I don't have a dog. I don't have kids.
I don't
People
have
love living
I
next
don't
to
have
me.
kids.
Okay.
My wife likes to sit outside and read and enjoy the weather, but if
How dare
at our
she?
old house where we were closer, if all the neighbors' kids were out running around playing, it was disrupts the reading time.
All right. All right, let's go on to our big recommend, and it is my turn this week. So I will take it away. Grosse Pointe Blank is a movie directed by George Armitage. It was written by Tom Jankowitz, D. Vicentis, Steve Pink, and John Cusack. Basically, I think it's all a bunch of buddies getting together writing. And it has the distinction of being one of only 2 high school reunion movies that came out in April of 1997 with Romy and Michelle's high school reunion coming out the same month. The movie opens in an apartment where contract killer Martin Blank, played by John Cusack, is talking on the phone with his assistant Marcella, played by his sister Joan Cusack, as he washes his eyes out in preparation for his next target, and incidentally to Johnny Nash's song I Can See Clearly Now. Marcella, unfazed by the fact that Martin is about to kill a human being, reads a 10-year high school reunion announcement from Martin's old school, Points High. It talks about the very normal things Points High schoolers have been doing while Martin takes aim at a guy on a bicycle who's about to shoot someone on a sidewalk. Apparently, his job is to kill the killer. Marcella continues, whenever news of you filters back, the school is excited and proud of your accomplishments. Martin successfully hits the guy on the bike, and the bodyguards of the dead assassin do the rest. But while they look around for more danger, they didn't expect Dan Aykroyd, who mows down the target and bodyguards in broad daylight. Dan Aykroyd is playing another contract killer named Grosser, but we all know he's just playing a thinly veiled version of himself. Marcella tells Martin that his customer is very upset, but Martin asks how he was supposed to do 2 jobs when he was only contracted for 1. Grosser and Martin, along with their matching Lincoln Town cars, meet each other ever cautiously in a secluded place around LA, where Grosser pitches the idea of forming what is basically a union for assassins, which would prevent stuff like overlaps from happening and apparently working less and making more. He's got a whole bunch of people who have signed on, but Martin wants no part of it. Grosser then asks Martin to ponder it, but just before leaving, Grosser kids him about something that will be a big plot point that we won't fully know the details of until later. Martin apparently killed a dog during a hit, and it's put him on a list. When confirming his next stop in Miami, Marcella asks Martin if he's okay because he doesn't seem like himself lately, which may or may not be a driving force of Martin's character moving forward. In Miami, Martin prepares a kill that has lived rent-free in my head for 28 years. He has cut a hole in the floor leading down into a vent in the ceiling just above his sleeping target. He feeds a long wire down through the vent with a tiny camera attached so he can line it up over the man's open mouth. Then he feeds a thread through that same space. Once properly aligned, he then presses down on a syringe, which causes poison to trickle down the thread. This will be the perfect murder, except last second, the target turns his head and the poison drips harmlessly on his face, waking him up. Martin now has to run downstairs and make this accidental death look like a murder. The guy pleads with Martin. The guy pleads with Martin. Whatever it is he's doing that makes him mad, he'll stop. Martin, ever passing the buck, and probably a big reason why his conscience is eating at him, says, "It's not me," before officially murdering the guy. Back home, Marcella tells Martin that the client is once again upset about the hit, which seems to be an ever-growing list of kills that Martin has messed up, despite what seems like truly impossible unforeseen factors. The firm in question says Martin has to make amends, and they have a contract put out on a guy who just happens to live in Detroit, which means Martin can take care of business and attend his high school reunion in Grosse Pointe. As Martin tells Marcella to take care of his dry cleaning and his cat, she gives him a packet, reminding him not to forget his identity, which I'm sure has something to do with the movie of the same name that John Cusack does years later with James Mangold.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after this, we see Martin talking to a psychologist, beating Analyze This and The Sopranos by 2 years, with the bad guys getting therapy angle. His psychologist is Dr. Oatman, played by Alan Arkin, and after Martin opens his heart, it's pretty clear that Dr. Oatman stopped the therapy long ago when Martin admitted that he was a professional killer. It's just Martin doesn't care. He needs the help. Martin continues to gloss over what he does by telling his therapist that he's almost like a Dexter Morgan. If he got hired to kill you, you've done some bad stuff that probably deserves killing. Also, he doesn't think work has anything to do with who a person is. Martin wants to talk about recurring dreams he's been having about his ex-high school girlfriend, Debbie, which Dr. Oatman implies is an obsession. Ultimately, probably just to get Martin out of the office, Oatman tells him to go to the reunion, find Debbie, and not kill anyone for a few days. Somewhere in a place where the actual Dan Aykroyd lives, he's getting a 1997 green text version of Messenger from a client telling him that the Detroit job has been filled by someone else. Grosser calls an FBI agent, or actually an NSA agent, to narc on Martin's upcoming job, hoping they will kill him after he gets done with the Detroit job. Not long after, we see two NSA agents, Steve Lardner, played by Hank Azaria, and Kenneth McCullers, played by K. Todd Freeman, following Martin in Michigan with a station wagon. Not long after, we see Martin driving around Grosse Pointe, listening to his girl Debbie on the radio, playing a sort of college alternative mix of 80s and 90s fare. Debbie is played by Minnie Driver. Martin stops by the station and looks into the window like a stalker. Debbie notices, but Martin drives on. After a brief catch-up sesh with an old teacher at Points High, Martin drives to take a look at his old house, which has, much to his surprise, been turned into a convenience store. It looks so not out of place in the neighborhood with all the other homes that were not turned into convenience stores. Martin walks into the store and demands answers from the clerk, who, of course, has no idea what he's talking about. And wait, is that a Doom 2 arcade game? Did those exist? He tries calling his therapist to no avail. Then he tries to see his mom, who is in a psychiatric hospital and is so drugged up, she's not entirely with it. She mildly recognizes Martin before totally forgetting who he is, saying, "Oh, you're a handsome devil. What's your name?" The tour moves to the cemetery, where Martin pours one out derisively for his long-deceased dad. Martin goes back to his hotel and hides his assassin dossier in the ventilation, comes back to Debbie's radio station and just barges in while she's doing a show. She's surprised, excited, and disgusted all at once. After an awkward kiss, they immediately get into Martin stood up Debbie at prom and was never seen again. Lying by telling the truth, Martin admits that for the last 10 years he's been a professional killer, something he knows no one will actually believe. He leaves, but is quickly back into the studio, where Debbie puts him through the ringer. Broadcasting live, Debbie grills Martin about what he did and asks what she should do about him, even opening up the phones to see what the callers think. NSA agent Lardner can't resist calling in and giving his 2 cents. Nothing is ultimately decided, and things are left up in the air. Or is it on the air? Just outside the radio station, Martin recognizes someone walking around Grosse Pointe who could be another pro. Then an old friend named Paul Spiricki, played by Jeremy Piven, who has no idea how on edge Martin is at all times, spots him walking by and slightly scares him by calling out his name. They decide to catch up, with real estate agent Paul driving Martin out to a house that he hopes to sell to some newlyweds. After a funny exchange with an old acquaintance who's a property security guard, Paul reveals he's the guy who sold Martin's childhood home to the Ultimart. While driving around and catching up, it seems that the innocuous nature of their conversation has overwhelmed Paul, who, in the most famous scene in the movie, breaks up the monotony by honking the horn and yelling, 10 years, man! 10! Where have you been for 10 years? Martin once again jokes that he's a professional killer, but this time adding the detail that he freaked out, joined the army, and worked for the government beforehand. All of it sounds quite true. Martin comes back to the Ultimart, where the clerk is playing Doom 2 with his headphones, cranking the Ace of Spades by Motorhead. It's during this moment that the strange possible killer screeches his tires outside and announces that he might not be a very good professional killer. Then he runs in and starts blasting, with Martin ready and firing back. The shootout ends in a stalemate, but Martin, hiding near a microwave, notices that the mystery killer has placed a bomb inside. After one of the most hilarious moments of recognition ever put on film, Martin runs out of the store, comes back to save the clerk, and runs back out with it. When Martin asks if he's all right, he says, "No, man, I'm hurt. I'm pissed. I've got to find a new job." Martin immediately calls up Debbie to have a proper sit down and proper catch up, which ends up being at a bar called the Hippo Club. We find out Debbie got married and divorced at some point. Martin admits he just joined the army on a whim, even bypassing prom to do it. Eventually, he asks Debbie to be his reunion date. That gets put on hold for another Cusack reunion when Amy, played by Ann Cusack, drunkenly wanders by and asks what Martin's been up to all these years. This time, he's got a good jokey one. He's been working for KFC selling biscuits and gravy across the Southland. Martin excuses himself to the bathroom, where he lets the NSA guys know he knows who they are. What he doesn't know is that Grosser is in the stall listening to everything they say. Grosser wants to know why they can't just kill him now, and they say they have to see him performing an illegal act. Martin calls Marcella, and she's got some info on the NSA guys, even up to the fact that they were basically hired by Grosser. Then she has info on the other killer in town. His name is one of my favorites ever, Felix La Poubelle, played by Benny Urquidez, who's got a long martial arts history, but is almost assuredly in this movie because he's Cusack's kickboxing instructor. Felix is in town because he's here to kill Martin over the dog he killed on another job. Martin comes by to visit Debbie, who lives in her father's mansion because her apartment burned down, and so that we can be introduced to him later. After some weird acrobatics in her bedroom that I'm just going to call a sex scene, Martin successfully gets Debbie to agree to go to the reunion with him. Despite her brave face, she's pretty obviously happy he's back in her life. Martin and Grocer have another uneasy meeting at a restaurant, but this is mainly a whole bunch of exposition about the dog Martin killed and why he's a target. Also, Martin accuses Grocer of putting the NSA on him, which of course he denies. Grocer once again puts the union pitch on him, but Martin says he thinks this might be his last job. Grocer doesn't buy it, and then lets Martin know that they're going to do his last job for him and then kill him too. Before things get really out of hand, Martin smashes a plate as a distraction in front of the server and backs out of the restaurant. Martin calls his therapist and tells him basically everything that's going on, and then Oatman gives him a bunch of platitudes about being one with the me. Martin holds a loaded gun in his hand, knowing he probably might need it with all the danger in town, but decides against it at the last minute. He's also a little sloppy with his points high reunion ticket, which Felix finds when rummaging in his apartment. Martin comes by to pick up Debbie, and we get a scene with her father, played by Mitchell Ryan, who probably a lot of you know from Liar Liar, I guess, and there's quite a few other things he was in, but he was in Liar Liar this exact same year, who will soon be more important than we initially thought. After Martin vaguely sketches out his last 10 years, her dad tells him that he exploits the oppressed with the same jokey but true sensibility that Martin uses when he says he's a professional killer. On to the reunion, where the usual reunion things happen. They run into Ken, which rhymes with pen, something which he gives Martin that will be extremely useful later. And look at that! They went to high school with Jenna Elfman. After several more discussions with old acquaintances, Martin runs into Tracy, who's holding a baby, and really sells Martin on marriage. The baby's cute face stares into Martin's soul and somehow likes what he sees. After that, they run into Bob DeStepolo, a discount Aaron Dicer, who, when asked if he remembers Martin, he says, "I'm drawing a complete blank." Bob reeks of alcohol and will be one of Martin's tests during the reunion. Afterwards, Martin and Debbie have a nice moment while Pete Townsend sings "Let My Love Open the Door." Things are back on the mend. But wait, isn't that Tracy on the dance floor? Who's taking care of the baby? Does anyone care about the baby?
Nope.
Martin and Debbie go somewhere private to have sex. But let's not have an orgasm just yet. Here comes Felix LaPoubelle to the reunion, posing as someone who didn't show up. Somehow, the reunion coordinator is still just sitting there waiting for people rather than mingling with her old friends. Post-coitus, Martin and Debbie separate for a moment. Debbie goes to say goodbye to some people, and he says he's going to go by his old locker. Drunk-ass Bobby comes by, pretending like there's an old score to settle with Martin. But Martin manages to keep a cool head during it all, calming Bobby down, impressing Debbie, who he doesn't know is watching. Bobby even wants to read him his terrible poetry that Douglas Adams forgot to note when ranking the worst poetry in the universe. Do you want to do some blow? No, I don't. I am not doing that scene justice there. You want to do some blow? No, I don't. While at his old locker, Martin discovers the old weed he stored is still there. But let's not get too high yet. Here comes Felix LaPoubelle to kill Martin. They have a fight that Martin ends by sticking Ken's pen into LaPoubelle's chin. This is where John Cusack says that famous line, "You offered me your heart, I killed you with the pen." Oh, is that not in this movie? I guess in some synopses, we'll say anything. Unfortunately, Debbie sees the aftermath and immediately gets sick and runs away. Cue 99 Luft balloons. Paul arrives to see what happened, get the lowdown on the victim, wrap him up, carry him through the school, and help Martin dispose of him in the school furnace. After that, back in the reunion space, Paul now says, ironically, "Paul Spiricki, I'm in real estate. What do you do, Martin?" Back at the hotel, Martin calls Dr. Oatman and leaves a message telling him he doesn't want to work with him anymore. Apparently, Oatman is having one of those after-hours therapy sessions because he has a patient in his office and he's resorting to smashing the answering machine while Martin fires him. And this is on the night of the high school reunion. Debbie shows up to ease some part of her mind. Was the guy he killed going to kill him? But yes, but he must admit that he has killed people before. Apparently, while in the army, he fit a certain psych profile that was attractive to the CIA, and that's how he got into killing people before starting his own business. While it gives Martin some weird moral gymnastics to jump through, Debbie is only interested in hearing about the dead people. And while Martin has been wrestling with the complications of the job itself, he has to admit that after doing it a while, he began to like it. He again thinks that he can justify it by saying, hey, the guys I kill are really bad people too. No matter what the reasoning he's had in the past, he has recently lost interest in the job, and he thought he could start over with Debbie, who's not having it. At least not yet. Cusack does something so relatable after Debbie walks out. He puts his face on the corner of the wall, pressing one eye against the wall while the other half is exposed. I think we've all probably been there before. Marcella seems to be getting ready to torch the assassin's office, and Martin calls her to ask for an update and to tell her he's left her a big severance package. Now, with nothing left to hope for, Martin looks at the dossier and finds out that he's supposed to kill Debbie's dad. Because this is a movie, Martin comes to this realization at just the right time to save him before Grosse can take him out. A car chase ensues. Martin tells Debbie's dad that there's a contract on his life and he was hired to do it, but he's not going to because either he's in love with his daughter or he has a new respect for life, which Grosse, not hearing this, reasons the same thing out loud that Martin just said. The car chase ends up at the Newberry mansion where Martin protects Debbie and her dad, gives a full explanation for why he's hit his life crisis, and gives the movie an excuse for a massive but very well staged shootout. While that happens, Martin secures Debbie and her dad in a bathtub in a locked bathroom. After shooting a guy to death and hitting him with a frying pan several times, Martin tells Debbie, I'm in love with you, and I know we can make this relationship work. It's hilarious, but it's also so ridiculous as to be unbelievable when all this actually ends up with Martin and Debbie getting together. This eventually gets down to Martin and Grosse, but then the guys you forgot about, Lardner and McCullers, come barging into the house, guns ablazing, until Martin and Grosse kill them, emptying their guns. Eventually, after Grosse tries to convince Martin he'll sell him a gun and they can keep on fighting like this, Martin takes the Nev Campbell route and scream and kills Grosse with a TV to the face. All the bad guys dead, and no law enforcement to be seen for miles. Martin finds Debbie and asks her to marry him, to which Debbie's dad says, "You've got my blessing." This somehow works. After that scene, they're in a car driving off to blister in the sun, and some weird platitude about, I don't know how, about forget and forgive. I say forget and forgive and just accept. And that's what the movie asks you to do. And it ends there. And that somehow works for me. Guys, what did you think of Grosse Pointe Blank?
Oh man, what a soundtrack. Maybe that shouldn't be my first comment about this movie, but man, every needle drop, the thing that stood out to me this time, I've seen this movie several times and I really enjoy it, is just how perfect the casting is. I feel like the casting choices are perfect across the board. Like Dan Aykroyd is bringing something very uniquely Aykroydian to that role. Martin Blank could not be played this way by anyone other than John Cusack. He has a very distinct comedic delivery. Specifically lines like I wrote down when he's in the convenience store and he's leaving a message for his therapist and he's like, "You can never go home again, Open, but I guess you can shop there." Just the way he delivers those things, it's just, and like you said, I'm pretty sure, like most of these writers were writers on High Fidelity. I'm pretty sure it's just a group of his friends who know him and his sense of humor really well and tailored this movie around. But Minnie Driver's perfectly cast. I'll never understand why she didn't have a 25-year career after the Good Will Hunting and Grosse Pointe Blank run, because she's great in both of those. Yeah, I don't have many complaints at all. It's a breeze to watch this movie. It's fun. The action, it's clear that while not John Wick levels, it's clear that they were serious about some of the fights, especially that fight with his kickboxing coach, who, when I found out that was his kickboxing coach, I remembered Say Anything, and that he wants to be a kickboxer in that movie. And so I looked it up, and he started training kickboxing for Say Anything. and then fell in love with it and has been training. He's a level 6 black belt.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, I don't buy them getting together at the end, but I do think it works. I wrote down almost exactly what you said, Chris, was that I don't ultimately buy her taking him back and falling in love for him so quickly, but it works for the movie. And the movie kind of needs that closure, but it's been 2 days. It's been like 2.5 days, and the forgiveness of the prom incident alone should take longer than 2 days, let alone driving off into the sunset. I do wish we got more Debbie characterization, right? Like I like the DJ thing, but other than that, we don't really get anything else about. It's all about his side of how we're seeing things, which is very 90s. And so I get it. But I wish we did get to dig a little deeper. But anyway, most of my notes are just lines I liked and things I want to rave about. I do want to mention, while I have the mic, high school reunions in any form I've ever seen them look like pure hell, and I don't know why anyone goes to them unless you were the most popular kid in the school. Like
I've been to all 3 of mine.
Oh my god. Are they like they are in the movies, or I'm sure they're not?
Of course
not that bad, but is everybody drinking? And
drinking is a thing for sure. In general, I mean, the 10-year high school reunion things are you're still young, and there still might be, you might still have something, if you had something left unsaid or done or whatever 10 years ago, maybe that, I don't know. I didn't experience that myself in the 10-year high school reunion, but especially as you get older. I did my 30-year high school reunion a couple of months ago. As you get older, people just realize, you know what, we're a bunch of old farts now. Who cares what happened in high school? That high school was stupid. So, and it's really just it's a good reason to drink. Yes. And I'm not a drinker, so I don't go there to do that, but it's more an excuse to just go out and just kind of catch up with what everybody's doing and all of that. And, you see how everybody's, has what they've been doing all this time. And, I guess there's the sad part of it too, is that there's people that have died in your class too, that you have to take note of every once in a while. But, I've had fun, and it's not like I've sat there for been there for like hours and hours and hours. I think I was at this last one for like a couple of hours, even though there were people who are all like, what do you, they want to know every single thing about you. And that's been happening in the last 10 years that you last saw them and everything. You just don't have time for everything. But
I feel like if I saw somebody I went to high school with in the grocery store, I would turn around and walk the other way.
Yeah.
I think that says more about me than anyone else. But yeah, and also I should note, I went to like 2 different high schools, split down the middle, so I never really got a super tight knit group at either high school, and so there's nobody I really want to catch up with.
And there's of course a number of people obviously who don't show up, and sometimes it's a surprise who doesn't show up, and sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, makes sense, but yeah, I haven't had that experience. I mean, maybe other people have. This one in Grosse Pointe Blank, and Romeo and Michelle is really actually the worst high school reunion you could go to, is that one, because that one's, everybody's still got this like high school mentality 10 years later, which I did not experience at my 10 year. Everybody's like still acting like they're the queens of the high school and everything in Romeo and Michelle and everything. And this one, I think it's a little bit more realistic, but man, people really take the problems into the high school reunion, and it's not something that I've ever experienced. Be like, like I'm a drunk BMW dealer, and I'm gonna ask you if you want to do blow outside and all that. I mean, that's
I think a lot of what movies emphasize are things that might be going on under the surface psychologically, but generally when you get together with other humans, you're not bringing those things up to the surface. Like, you even think about the woman who's checking people in. Clearly the insinuation is like she is regretting living her life so fast and being married and having 3 kids and and those kind of things. And that's probably under there somewhere for a lot of people 10 years after high school, but it's not necessarily something that's gonna visualize in that way. I went to my 10-year because we were close enough to, and then we moved far enough away. I haven't been to any others, and I thought it was fine. It was nice catching up with people. It's wild to me how much we leave the people in high school behind after spending 4 years with them, and I think it has to do with high school is kind of this forced thing where you're just kind of like, you know, everybody, I guess not everybody, but most everybody goes to high school, has to, you know, deal with the socialization of it and find your place in it. And it's just this weird thing that you just leave behind. So to go back to it, it's like figuring out, oh, who are these human beings that I saw at a point in their lives where, you know, they had no clue what it meant to be a human being yet, you know, like, so yeah, it's, I find it fascinating from a level, but
I'm not even sure I want to go inside my old high school. Like, I'm like from an anxiety perspective, I'm not even sure. Sure. That would be something I would want to do.
I had a lot of great memories in that building. So like for me, it's a positive experience, but yeah, but I also went to a tiny high school, a tiny Christian high school. My whole graduating class was like 50 people. So, you know, that's a whole different ball game than most.
I can't relate to people who had good memories in high school.
I know. I apologize. This movie, the main problem with this movie is the title. There is no reason not to put an E on blank as well, because then it would be 3 words that don't need an E that have an E. So that's just my opinion. No, this is my definition of a great hang movie. Like, you just watch this movie and you're like, I want to hang out with all these people. Whatever the adventure is, I want to see it because these people are fun. And like, you know, the Cusacks are great. Both of them are great in this. Minnie Driver is so good in this movie. And she, and Jeremy, I think you had some relevant and real points about the lack of her character development, but she does so much with so little. That you feel like they are a fully formed couple. Like, you feel like you know them. I think the scene that does it for me is the airplane scene. Can we do an airplane real quick or whatever? And he does the airplane, and then they just kind of joke back and forth and whatever. And it just, that scene to me just locks something in with them where I'm just like, oh, I love them. I love them so much. And I just take that through the movie. Dan Aykroyd, you mentioned, such a great hang in this movie, having so much fun. There's a glimmer and a scheme in his eye that's just really captivating in this movie. There are many points of this movie I wanted to bring up. The way he is honest about his job is my favorite example of telling the truth to put people off the truth in movies, because he does it several times. And people always just laugh it off, and the way he does it is just so matter of fact, and it's a really fun part of the movie for me. You mentioned the "You Got My Blessing" scene. That's probably my biggest laugh line in the movie. There's something really great in that delivery. I don't want a semantic argument. I just want some protein. It's like, put it on a bumper sticker. Like, it's, you know, it's just so many things in life.
She comes out and says that you ordered the not omelet.
So I really like that. And then I had a thought this time through, and I know this is basically just me being like, this movie's fun, yay! But I had this moment during the 10 years thing that I wanted to throw by you guys, because it stuck out to me that they do almost the same exact lines twice. He has that little addition in his part or whatever. And it feels to me, I don't know if this is true. It doesn't even have to be true for me to love this. It feels like they're running the scene twice. Like they're just keeping the cameras rolling. They're going to get another take of this. And it almost feels, when they laugh at the end of the second one, like that's a natural John Cusack and Piven laughing, not the characters laughing. It feels almost like a deleted scene or outtakes in the movie in some ways, because it's like, okay, we did the one version, now let's amp it up for the second version, and they do the same lines. I don't know, I find it really, I just wonder if in the edit bay it was like, let's just do the whole thing. Let's just leave the whole thing in there, because it's, it's so much fun.
They went to high school together. They've been friends for now they're not anymore. I actually wrote down, between John Cusack and Jeremy Piven, who do you think is more responsible for their falling out, and why is it Jeremy Piven?
I really do love, by the way, how, and this is just a fully realized thing they did in almost every scene, is Martin Blank doesn't go into any situation without being very nervous about it. You can see it in every scene. He constantly is switching sides or switching areas that he's standing so that he can see over the person's shoulder and make sure that there's nobody about to sneak up on him. There's a scene in this movie that it almost feels like an accident the way they did it, or they didn't tell John Cusack that this was going to happen, but he's walking Debbie outside the bar afterwards, and you hear somebody quickly get out of a car and slam the door and run behind them. And you can see Cusack kind of like look behind him, like, what is that? And it's just every single scene in this, he's just kind of doing that with everybody, kind of like, I need to get the proper position. I need to make sure that my weapons are ready in case I need them. And he does that no matter who he's talking to. I love that.
That's why I'm not a professional killer.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much stress. You start killing. You've sealed your fate. Eventually, you're going to be. I've seen Looper. I know how it works.
I also wonder what happened with Minnie Driver. I mean, like, this was a year where she had two big. I mean, Grosse Pointe Blank wasn't a big hit, but Good Will Hunting certainly was, and everything. But considering that movie was made by Miramax, I wonder if she got blacklisted at some point. I don't know if she ever came out and said anything about it, so I don't want to speak for her. But like, you kind of wonder when somebody's star is that bright and they've just done a big movie like that, like, where kind of did they go after that? Why didn't they become a huge star or whatever? It was a sort of a debate as to whether this is Joan Cusack's best movie or best performance. Now, she came out with another one this very year called In and Out, where I thought she was really good in that.
Fantastic.
The Kevin Kline, Don't Know If I'm Gay or Not movie, which is, it could only make in the 90s probably. Yeah. But she's very good in that. I think she got nominated for an Oscar for that too. And then there's a School of Rock that I thought she was really good in too. But like, I think this is some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen her do. There's a scene, it's not important to the movie at all. They kind of indulge and just let her go. That where she's on the call and she's like, no, 3,000 rounds of subsonic. You had that. Well, I don't give a good goddamn what you think. You can just send that to me now. And then she cuts over to the other call and she goes, okay, what? No. There's celery. It's just a base. Celery and carrots are part of the base of the soup. I love all that stuff.
She's probably ad-libbing that. I wouldn't be surprised.
It feels like it because it's such an indulgent moment in the movie. There's no reason they need to show her doing this whatsoever. Right. There's nothing important about him getting the 3,000 rounds of subsonic. There's nothing important about her soup. So I really do think they just thought, this is funny, let's stick it in. And it's what it feels like what you're saying there, Aaron. Like, I wouldn't be surprised that you're right about that whole scene. They just left it on because it is the exact same.
It's like wording. They're running the same lines twice in a row. Yeah, it's really interesting.
The only addition is that he worked with the government or whatever. Yeah. That's the only addition that he does to that thing. So anyway, okay. Let's go to our super secret double feature. What do you guys got?
Aaron.
I went with In Bruges. Tonally completely different. Narratively strikingly similar. There's some interesting hitman comparisons here, friendship comparisons. Stuff going on here, and there is comedy in both, even though the tones are different. There's definitely comedy in Bruges as well, and their titles both cities, so that works out.
There you go. Always give the extra layer.
He's always got layers, man. He's got layers.
Yeah,
I felt like I had two options here. I could choose a movie about hitmen, or I could choose a movie about a high school reunion going back to your old town. And Hitmen felt a little too on the nose. If I was going to do Hitmen movie to double feature, there's no question it would be Donner's Assassins with Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas, a movie I adore that I don't think anybody I know has seen or ever talked to me about.
I mean,
And
I've
it's
seen it.
not,
I don't think I liked it.
it's not great. No. But it did spawn that great Antonio Banderas meme where he leans back from the computer and he does that fist to his face. I chose Beautiful Girls, which is another go home. Doesn't have any action, but it's not super different tonally. He goes home for a high school reunion and catches up with a bunch of old buddies and meets a preteen Natalie Portman and has inappropriate feelings for her.
If I say so.
Meets Uma Thurman and has fairly appropriate feelings for her. Yeah, I just think that would be an interesting. I just didn't want to do 2 Hitman movies, and I'm not ripping on anybody who did, because I did by throwing Assassins out there. Yeah, the whole time I just kept thinking about Beautiful Girls. So that's my answer.
Now to be fair, I haven't seen Assassins since it came out, and I immediately disregarded that movie once I watched it.
I don't think that's an inappropriate response. That's totally fair.
Surprisingly, it was not a movie that because it seemed like everything that I used to watch in the 90s, Jeremy also loved in the 90s, like Demolition Man and like, you know, all these movies that I'm like, nobody knows this, nobody knows Demolition Man. And then Jeremy's like, I love Demolition Man. So like, you know, that type of thing. But anyway. All right. What is going to be our homework for next week? Jeremy's turn. What do you got, Jeremy?
Since the inception of Recotopia, I have been waiting for this movie to be on streaming because it's a not super well reviewed movie that I really like, that I think has a lot of interesting things going on, and that's going to be Mr. Brooks, which is on Netflix and stars William Hurt and Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner is a serial killer. William Hurt is his alter ego, invisible friend, ghost thing. And I don't really want to say any more than that. If you've seen it, you know where this is going to go. But if you haven't, you probably don't know where this is going to go. And this is one of the few times that Kevin Costner has embraced being a truly evil character. And that alone, I think, is worth the watch. The other thing to note in this movie as you go through it is the very interesting casting. This is one of the most interesting casts I've ever seen cobbled together. So it's like a 50-something on Rotten Tomatoes. There's a very good chance you may not like it. I love it, and I can't wait to see it again and digest.
I will say this. I watched this when it came out. I loved it. I have not seen it since.
Okay.
So this will be kind of like watching it for the first time again.
Sure.
But I remember like, wow, that was a big surprise. I also remember that it didn't do well at the box office, and I was disappointed because Costner said there were like several others of these that they wanted to make.
It sets up naturally for sequels.
Yeah, so they just that there was one lament about this movie is that they never made any other ones afterwards. But anyway, I'll be looking forward to watching this one again. Is this where is this on?
It's on Netflix, at least in the US.
In the US, okay.
I have never seen it. Looking forward to checking it out.
All right.
You will.
It's rare to sneak one by you.
You will be transported to a time when Dane Cook was being put into movies.
Oh, good old Dane.
That's right. That's right. Okay, it looks like we have time for one question here. Let's go to the questions. What's your favorite this person was almost in this movie story where you think the movie would have been just as good or even better? I heard that Tim Roth was set to be Severus Snape in the Harry Potter movies at one point. Now, would he have been as good as Alan Rickman? I don't think anybody can really be as good as Alan Rickman, especially considering there's all that baggage with Alan Rickman as being a bad guy before, and like he's like, is he a bad guy or is he not? I don't know, that type of thing. But I do think Tim Roth would have probably still done a really good job in that movie. So I love that story that he nearly was Severus. So
Neat. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite of these stories, and yes, I know that the question says would have been just as good or even better, and I do posit a world where this could have been just as good, is Will Smith as Neo in The Matrix instead of Keanu. It's my favorite one of these stories because the sliding doors of Will Smith being Neo is so fascinating to me. And I am very curious about what that looks like, how that changes things, how his, presence, his, stardom or whatever. And it's not like Keanu hadn't done stuff. I'm just saying like there was this level of, that Will Smith went through with Independence Day and, Men in Black and just, dominating box office that makes it a different kind of fare. But man, if the Wachowskis are doing it with Will Smith, I don't know. It just fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me.
Was it Wild Wild West that he decided to do instead of The Matrix? Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that was. Oh my god!
And what does that do to Keanu Reeves' career if he's not Neo?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible sliding doors.
Before I answer the question, it's worth noting, so Slab pointed out, I lied. Apparently, Mr. Brooks is not on Netflix, even though Google says it is. So I apologize. I teased, and it looks like most of you will have to rent this.
Well, maybe it was in September, and they just moved it in October. Or
That's
something
my
like
guess.
That.
Usually, it's pretty reliable. When I Google, it brings it up on the right, and like 9 times out of 10, it's correct. But I was wrong. I apologize. My answer to the question, I told you last week. Tom Cruise was almost the Russell Crowe character in 3:10 to Yuma, and I thought he would have done well. I'm going to give you another Tom Cruise. He was going to be Iron Man rumors before they made Iron Man.
Yeah.
And again, I know Robert Downey Jr. is to many people an untouchable. No one else could have done this role, but Tom Cruise could have done that role very well. It wouldn't have been Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, but I think Tom Cruise could do billionaire playboy philanthropist just fine. And I've always been curious what that would have looked like. I was one of those people hoping in that second Doctor Strange movie that he was going to pop up as an alternate universe Iron Man, but didn't happen.
You almost get the sense that Cruise didn't see the big vision of being in that movie, and then when he did finally got the big vision of being in a big franchise like that, he did The Mummy. And that did not turn out well. Going over to the chat, there's another Will Smith in here, and that's the Django Unchained one, where he was supposed to be in that. And
another good one.
I had always heard the reasoning behind that was that he was so afraid for his reputation and everything. This is why The Slap is has even more layers of amazingness to it. Is that he didn't want to do Django because of his image, but he would be willing to go up on stage and slap a guy for insulting his wife. That's considered okay. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, that would have been good. I think.
Okay. I'm concerned. Slav has said he can't find Mr. Brooks to rent anywhere, and I just went to Amazon Prime and I can't find it to rent, and we need to change the movie.
Interesting.
I don't know how to do this on the fly.
Yeah, Mr. Brooks is one of those movies apparently that despite all of the digital streaming options, companies have said, nope, this movie doesn't deserve to exist, which blows my mind. I can't, it's the promise of the future was that any movie could be available somewhere, and just the way they treat these libraries is annoying.
I honestly think we should change this because I don't think I have a way to watch this unless I buy the Blu-ray, and I don't want everybody to have to buy the Blu-ray. So apologies again for the pivot. I hope you're still listening and haven't shut off the episode and gone to find Mr. Brooks. I'm going to pivot to A Perfect Getaway starring Steve Zahn, and that is on HBO Max.
All right.
And it's another movie that I have long been waiting to recommend on Recotopia. and it is about a couple newlyweds vacationing in Hawaii. So there you go. And I'm disappointed Aaron didn't have pivot graphics ready to go for
I was halfway expecting it too, even though there would have been no chance in hell that he would have had to randomly have done a perfect getaway, which would have been, if you had done that, I would have looked at you like all the people did at the end of Highlander when Christopher Lambert, like, survives, at the beginning of the movie where he survives the war thing, and everybody's like, I don't know about this guy. I would have been that way about you. All right. So
close enough.
Perfect world. So a perfect getaway is the actual homework next week. Very good. All right. I hope that doesn't change in the time that we sign off. All right, that's going to do it for this week. Once again, chat, thank you so much for coming out and watching us talk about movies today. We appreciate it. But that's going to do it. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.